Good evening and welcome to the FITT Show, financial information for today and tomorrow. I'm Bobby P. Kinzer,
And I'm Thomas Doty.
and we are the FITT Show, helping our people get their finances in shape. How you doing today, Thomas Doty?
I'm so glad to be home.
Yeah, you've been on a whirlwind of travel, man.
It's good to be home. It
What
is.
was your travel log like? What did you do the last 2-3 weeks?
I was in Cleveland. That's spending time with my mom, and just been on the road, man. It's good to be in my own bed.
That's right, though, for everybody to know, Dote's from Cleveland, sunny Cleveland.
Don't hold that against me.
Home, Ohio, home of LeBron James. Yeah.
No, he's actually from Akron.
No, I did say Ohio. I switched it to Ohio.
Yeah.
Home of, he's an Akron guy, but he's Ohio.
Yeah, he's outside of Cleveland.
Yeah. So welcome. Would like to welcome everybody around the country and around the world. This is our show where we try to help people, provide them with as much information that we can about building wealth and especially generational wealth. Try to give you tips. We do not we're not selling products and we're not fiduciaries or anything like that, but we are financial educators and we try to provide you with as much information as possible that can help you understand the financial mainstream so that you could be participate in it and end up living a better life by managing your funds a lot better. We talk about everything from spending to budgeting to credit cards to even investing, insurance, and even estate planning. But as we always say, please use the comment box because that's where you can put any questions you have or any ideas you have or any opinions you have on what we're talking about. But especially use that box because we get way more traction. That's how we reach more people through the comment box. But we want to make this interactive, and that's our way to make this interactive since we're in a virtual studio. We also like for you to click on the like button and the heart button because that also builds up traction and exposure to more people. That's how the algorithms work in Facebook. And make sure you go out there on YouTube and subscribe and share this information with other people. You all, please do that. This is so important that you actually share this information. It is very key. August the 1st, this is our 160th show, 160. We're on a roll, Dope. That's pretty amazing. Last week's show was ways to get a 10% return on your investment, ROI. But today we're going to talk about an approach to financial planning. Now, I know we talk about financial planning a lot here and planning just period, but we want to talk about, some of the approaches to financial planning that some people may sort of disregard or don't pay attention to. So it's going to be an interesting little twist today. And like I said, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comment box. So with that, we like to start how we always do at the top of the show, Dope, with the stock market update. And Dope, I know you're going to have nothing but good stuff to tell us about the stock market.
Wish I did. It's been a crazy, crazy week. And you can't tell from the results looking at week to week. It looks like it's just pretty much flat. But there's been so much going on with big drops, big risers. It's been a really crazy week. And the crux of it is that there's a sentiment out there that the Fed is waiting too long to cut interest rates because they just left them the same this week. And there's a lot of softness in the market. And then Amazon came out with their earnings and they missed the top line numbers. And they gave a pretty weak guidance about what they expect for the rest of the year. Tesla's deliveries are down for the second consecutive month. And so there's a lot of negative news out there. And I think people were kind of hoping that the Fed would have cut the rates to get things moving, but it didn't happen. So maybe in September they'll cut rates. But now there's some worry that we may miss that soft landing that we thought the Fed had pretty much pulled off. So it's pretty crazy right now, but you can see the S&P for the week is pretty much flat. It's up almost 1%, not quite 1%. NASDAQ is basically flat. Microsoft's down 1. Tesla's down 3, but it has been extremely volatile. Tesla has been up and down. It's been up. It was down 15 points just today. So it's been really crazy. Apple is still going strong. They're one of the few that's expected to go up tomorrow, because tomorrow is looking kind of gloomy. But Apple actually beat their estimate that the street was expecting. Pfizer's up slightly, and Nvidia's took a hit. Just reading an article by Jim Cramer, one of the famous analysts for MSNBC, yeah, or CNBC. I'm sorry, the financial page, CNBC, and his sentiment is that this is a buying opportunity because Nvidia is going down with the overall market, but it's still a pretty hot stock. And Google's actually up slightly, one of the few that's kind of doing okay. So extremely volatile. Maybe there's some bargains out there if you're looking, but we'll see how this whole thing shakes out. Things are looking shady right now.
Yeah, even with the Federal Reserve talking about lowering interest rates. Dope, just want to reiterate, because some people look at these changes. And remember, we're showing you a week over week comparison.
Right.
The market today was down for the NASDAQ about 400 points and about 400 points down for the S&P 500. So when you look at this, go, wait a minute, this is just week over week. But that shows you how last week, how much it must have dropped.
Yeah, just to be clear, the S&P was only down about 78 points, but the Dow was down almost 500, and NASDAQ was down 400. But the S&P wasn't down.
It was the Dow. You're right. I'm sorry, I had it back.
Yeah, the S&P wasn't down that much, but the S&P is only 5,400. So the Dow's over 40,000.
Thank you. It was the Dow. Correct. Thank you for correcting me there. But dope, my gold is up.
That's a good thing.
Getting ready to hit 2,500. And that's a good thing. That means my stuff it definitely has doubled. And silver, though, went down. That's interesting. And so let's talk a little bit about the cryptocurrency market. Because remember in the past, last week, Dote, I said it seemed like when the market go down, crypto go up. Didn't do it this time. There goes that theory. The market cap is down by 58 billion. That's about 2%, which is not that big of a drop. Bitcoin dropped 18%, dropped by $1,174 per Bitcoin. It was at 65,789. Now it's at 64,615. Now, a lot of people who got in before the pandemic, you all are doing well because it was down way. The Bitcoin around then was, I forgot, had to be about maybe 29,000, way about this. So you still up. For those people who got in after the pandemic, like 2020, 2021, y'all are probably hurting. Ethereum is down less than 1%, only $6. Tether, the stable coin, is up 1%, up by a penny. Solana is down by 4% at $165 per cryptocurrency. And Dogecoin, though, it dropped down to the number 10 position again. It went up to 9, it goes down to 10, goes up. But now it's back down from last week. It was at the 9th position. This week is at the 10th position at 12 cents per Dogecoin, down by 8%. Not good, though. So, as we always say, hold on tight, you all, and don't panic. But if you need your money, you got to do what you got to do. So, Doe, let's talk a little bit about today's subject.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. We're going to talk about financial planning, and if you think about some of the models that are out there, I mean, it's as basic as you think about uh, what you're going to pay between now and you when you retire. That's pretty much the middle of your life. But the goal is still to build wealth. And so, sound planning advice. Usually, there's two big steps. You want to save for emergencies, but at the same time, you want to save for retirement. And if you think about that, that's kind of leaving out everything that happens in between. You think about how a typical life goes, the American dream life. You finish college, you get married, you have kids, you buy a house, and then all your bills come up. You need furniture, you need cars, you got to buy new phones, you replace things break in your house, replace the water heater, you cut the check for tuition. All these costs are in the middle. Okay, that's kind of how it really works. That's where you spend the bulk of your money.
But you pay the minimum on student loans and you try to hold a small balance on credit card because that's what a lot of financial advisors tell you to do, right? By having this idea in the back of your mind that you must have 6 months of income in a savings account for emergency fund and you should contribute the maximum to your 401k. But before you know it, you have thousands of dollars in savings and thousands of dollars in debt. And according to traditional financial advice, you're right on track. And a solid financial plan helps save for retirement, but retirement should be one of many goals within a plan. Like many people assume that the 401k or IRA is all the financial plan they need. But no, but one of the most crucial aspects of financial plan is deciding how to balance retirement savings with other savings needs. Now, if you only save for retirement, you can find yourself in financial trouble if a crisis happens. Now, you might have to dip into your retirement savings because you haven't made other savings plans. So by determining your and prioritizing your money goals, a financial plan can help you allocate your money responsibly. Me and Dote always talk about, especially Dote always talk about when he gives out like these benchmark uh, uh, goals, like maybe emergency funds, 6 to 12 months, 12 months to a year, or these type of benchmarks. And Dote always preface it with these are only examples. There's no exact science. So a lot of people get caught up into thinking about hearing these things and miss the true essence of financial planning, though. So won't you take the traditional planning model, though?
Yeah, and in traditional planning, what you see, you look at the internet or from some financial planners, they all talk about this two-part financial planning models, where you put money in the bank and then you focus on your retirement, and that's the way to get financial security and be independent. That's what's ingrained in everybody's head. And when you think about anything other than those two, it seemed kind of radical. But that's another one of those things that's is universally accepted, but might not be the best for you. And we always talk about that when you hear these benchmark things, that's for somebody that's not you. There is no average person. You have to look at your own situation and think about what works best for you. And that's what we're going to get at today.
And I know you've heard some of these things, like why is having 3 to 6 months or 6 months to 12 months income the right amount of emergency savings? And what is considered an emergency? Is it a health crisis, a home burning down, a job loss? Won't insurance cover these things, many of these things? Furthermore, when is an emergency going to happen? When is the advantage of sitting on the massive amounts of money in a no growth account until you might need it. Why do you need 10 times your income with insurance agents tell you? 10 times your income for life insurance. Who came up with that arbitrary number? And what will that actually, will that actually be enough? But the real benchmark or benchmarks should be based on your personal needs, goals, and financial situations. We talk about asset allocation and, ways to structure your money toward future. Now, big ticket purchases on a monthly basis will allow you, especially if you're planning to have some big purchases, allocating money for those big purchases will allow you to anticipate these needs, which is called in the middle of you, planning retirement and being in retirement. It's that middle place, the middle where you find a way to pay for while you're building wealth.
Yeah, and what it's saying, Bob, if you look, everybody's saying invest, and invest early. And it makes sense because we always talk about compounding and the value of compounding, and the more you can put away early, the more opportunity it has to grow. But it also kills your cash flow because there's a lot of money that you're going to need in that middle of the life. And that's the time between when you start working and when you retire. And if you sit back and think about all the things you'll need from when you start to when you retire, it can be a daunting list. You start thinking about the cars you're going to buy, a house, home improvements, repairs. You don't know what medical expenses you're going to have. And college tuition is crazy. Then you start thinking about things like family vacations, and that list goes on and on. And so people sit up and do budgets, and a lot of times they don't account for those expenses in their cash flow. So one or two things happen. One, you continually deplete your savings, which is not what you want to do in order to pay for those things, or you finance everything with bank loans and credit, which we've told you that's not going to pay off in the long run. That's going to kill you and put you behind the 8 ball.
So either way, though, it's a zero-sum game. And let me tell you what I mean by that. There's a lot of expenses between now and retirement that most people are ignoring. Makes matters worse, many of these people are handing the money off to the bank and socking it away in a retirement account, potentially reducing their ability to grow their wealth both in the short term and the long term. For instance, when you store money in a bank account, you earn little or no interest, right? And what you do earn is taxed. So then when you use the money you have stored for purchase, then all of a sudden the money is gone, poof, forever. Now, if you've missed out on the potential earnings while the money is being stored, that's why leaving your money in a savings account paying less percent is not really helping you. Or, if all your money is in, the G fund, and some people, that's the risk they want to take, but your earnings, you're sacrificing the potential earnings, while, your money is being stored. And then you give up your future earnings on the money you spent, right? Because now you got to spend it. Now you can't earn on it. And if you're investing in your company 401k plan, you are effectively relinquishing control of your money. Now, this one is, it's a different thought, different mindset, because a lot of people talk about dope, pensions or annuities where you can get a lump sum. Like some companies let you take your pension, monthly payments, like annuities, or some of them let you take your pension in lump sum. And this particular idea is talking about, sometimes when you have your money in a 401k plan, you actually relinquishing the control of your money. And sometimes it might make sense to take your pension and you put it in a fund that you're managing, and you feel a lot safer because the PBGC, the Pension Guarantee Corporation dope, which is like the FDIC insurance banks, and the NCU, did I say it right? National Credit Union.
Yeah.
And SIPC, which is for investments. Well, the pension benefit guarantee fund is actually underfunded. So a lot of companies have been losing, their pensions, and it's supposed to be insured by the pension guarantee fund. So some people are nervous because the pension guarantee fund only covers, it says a lot more money, but when you do the factoring, if a bunch of people's pensions went out, and most they're going to cover is $12,000, though. So that's why sometimes, having control of your own money, your own pension, and a lump sum might be more beneficial. Now, you're not fully in charge of investment selection or diversifying your risk sometimes, but you also give up access to your money until you are at retirement age when you're in these pension plans, unless you want to pay a penalty and take the loan. So just think about that.
This article we're working through today, it talks about a life cycle financial planning model. Now, before we jump into that, we always talk about how you have to have a budget, you have to plan. And this one is kind of a little more in depth. And we're of the opinion now that you have to put some time into your financial plans in order to be successful. And so this is talking about creating a model around the inevitable expenses you will incur as you live your life. Okay. So you create a system that allows you to pay for the expenses that you will incur today and between now and retirement, the middle of your life, and at the same time, still trying to balance that and build some wealth. And so if you think chronologically, most people, young people anyway, shouldn't be saving for retirement. Okay. Whether they should be looking at their short-term needs and wants, from paying down student loans to paying for life's inevitabilities before anything else, saving for a house, all those big important things that are going to happen today, as opposed to worrying about retirement 40 years from now. And so that's the point of this system this guy's espousing, is the life cycle model. You allocate resources over their lifetime with the aim of avoiding sharp changes in their standard of living, and at the same time avoiding debt, but also building wealth.
Which we always are advocates about, building wealth, maximizing your returns, right? Now, of course, this type of system requires significant mindset shift when it comes to how you store and save your money. Because like, we all know, we actually always want to store money and store and build up the assets. But if we always say your money need to be working for you, saving money is good, but if it's not growing, remember, inflation eats through it. And you know what else eats through it? Not having a budget. So in other words, going against the popular opinion of funneling all your cash into a traditional bank or retirement account, modeling your strategy around a financial life cycle is a different little perspective, because we get the beginning and save, and then we get the end for retirement, but we miss the middle part. One method is to pay all the big ticket items. That is privatized banking, or what we call build banking, where you use a specifically designed whole life insurance policy in lieu of a bank, as both a repository for your savings and a funding source for large purchases. And this concept is commonly referred to as infinite banking. Now, this sounds pretty radical, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But, you mentioned life insurance, Bobby. That's one of the most misunderstood financial products. And it's a type of banking, and it's typically not mainstream. A lot of rich people use it, but it's becoming more recognized as a viable method for supporting the life cycle model. And the challenge for some people is that life insurance is one of the most misunderstood and misused financial products out there. Now, me personally, I never was a real big believer in cash value life insurance. I was more of a term insurance person, getting insurance just for what I needed, because I didn't like the fact of mixing two products where I couldn't really see the difference between the price of the insurance versus the price of the investment vehicle. And so a lot of times people look at whole life insurance policies and compare them to other policies, and they become confused, and it is pretty complicated. So when it's sold by salespeople, it's just off the shelf. A large portion of the money that the client pays in the first year, that goes to the insurance company as a commission. Okay. As a result, a lot of these policies won't show much gain for the first 10, 15 years. So especially the designed whole life policy is different and uses a design that reduces the cost of the contract and accelerates the buildup of capital. And these policies can be paid for and owned because after you've completed the capitalization period of the policy, you never have to make another payment. So basically you pay a bunch up front and get that part out of the way. The insurance company back guarantees of the death benefit and no internal cost is removed from the cash value. So all other insurance forms have a perpetual cost that increases over time. That can lead to not having enough money in the policies, or you may have to forfeit the policy altogether.
So Garnett says, is it necessary? Term versus whole. I guess he said, first he said term versus whole. And I guess she said, is life insurance even necessary if you have a 401k plan that have beneficiaries and Social Security that, you know, the spouse can actually pull upon?
Yeah, and that's when it gets complicated because when you look, and again, that's kind of how I felt when I was younger and had 4 kids. And in my goal was to have enough money to replace my income over the time to get my kids through college, to leave enough for my spouse to live her normal life. And so at that point, I didn't have enough saved. Now, obviously, if you've saved a whole bunch of money, you come to a point where you are basically self-insured. You have enough money to cover your income flow for whatever period that you want to cover. So at that point, you won't need life insurance if you have enough other funds. But typically when you're talking about a younger person with young kids, very few young people have, and then you got more years you have to cover. So very few people have that much money saved in their company savings plan at that particular point to be able to cover that long period of time. And especially when you start looking at what inflation will do to things like college tuition. And I think I mentioned before, when I was, working in my 30s and my kids were little, I actually had a term policy on my wife because if something had happened to her, I would have needed someone to take care of my kids. And so a lot of people think, well, she isn't working, why do you need insurance for her? Well, she served a very important task in raising the kids. And so if something had happened to her, you'd still need that in order to continue your life. You can't be home and take care of your kids and work at the same time. And so it's way more complicated than we can apply to any particular person because there's so many variables involved as far as how much money you need, how many kids you have, what things you'll need to cover if something happens to you. And I think these different types of insurance policies, and you got basic term, whole life, variable, and there's a lot of opportunities to do a lot of things. And so I guess to answer your question, if you have enough money saved, yeah, you can self-insure yourself. But I venture to say most people do not have that kind of money saved.
But it's an interesting strategy, though, by using an insurance policy, and they call it build banking, which you increase and put more money and increase those cash values a lot faster. And the theory is if you need the money, you can take it out and it not be taxed. And that's why it's, better than taking the money out of your 401k plan or IRA. But to build banking, strategy, it's if you're comparing this to the stock market, it's like comparing apples and oranges. Sure, the stock market could possibly provide a better rate of return, but it also could lose money, which doesn't make it a safe place to store your money. But this strategy of build banking is not an investment strategy. It's not talking about even competing against the stock market. What it's doing is giving you money a place to grow while allowing access to cash without interrupting the growth of your money. What I mean by that. So when you compare specifically designed whole life policy to a traditional bank account, you can quickly realize that storing money at a near zero rate doesn't seem to make good financial sense. So using this product helps you actually build up the cash values, and then it has tax advantages, and that's why this is a particular strategy being talked about.
Yeah, now one of the main advantages of this bill banking over traditional banking is you can capitalize on money that you have to spend. That's because when you take money from your bank account, that money's gone. It can no longer be available to you to earn interest. But if you borrow money from a bill banking policy, the entire amount remains in the policy. Let's work through an example. Maybe it'll make some sense. Say you got $10,000 in the bank and you need to withdraw $4,000 to cover a giant home repair you have. The amount of money remaining in the bank account is obviously $6,000. So you're earning interest on $6,000. But if you had $10,000 in a bill banking policy, you could access the $4,000 in the form of a loan from the insurance company. Therefore, the policy acts as if the money was never removed, and the amount of money remaining in the account earning dividends is still $10,000. Okay, but what about interest? So there are interest charges on that loan, but because your money remains in a policy and continues to grow, you can potentially recapture the cost of the loan. So if your $10,000 cash value in your policy earns 4% and you borrow $4,000 at 5% from the insurance company, the cash value earns $400, while the interest on your loan is only $200. Okay, so the earnings on your cash value recaptures the loan interest. $400 earned minus $200 paid, so you end up positive $200. So that's a mindset shift. It's a little different than people have dealt in the past, and it's just another vehicle for putting money away. So historically, when it comes to the small percentage of money we earmark for savings, we look for the cheapest option with no fees and the highest rate of return. However, when spending money on, say, a new car, people don't mind paying fees or interest because they get what they want and or need. That just doesn't make sense. You have to take the same approach with every transaction and look at every financial decision you make as just what it is, a financial decision in which you want to optimize earnings, minimize fees. And whether it's a car, whether it's an insurance policy, whether it's bank interest rate, you should always be looking to maximize your own personal situation.
And that's the key, though, to maximize your situation, maximize your return, maximize minimize your taxes. And there are so many different products out there, you all. And this is just one strategy that we talked about that they sharing in this article. But I hope you get the whole idea that it's talking about, building, stacking up your cash and just letting it sit there. And then you put it in all in retirement and you really don't have no access to it. And if you take it out, you're going to pay a penalty and pay taxes. You need to look at the middle lifestyle. And I hope that's what y'all getting from what we're saying. So in short,
And Bob, it's a darn, if you really, and that's one of the issues we have, and we've talked about this before. When you're 25 to 35, you really have no idea of what's coming down the road. And that's why we always say financial literacy is so important. You need someone to tell you all the expenses you're going to have, that college is going to be crazy expensive, that whatever kind of house you buy, things are going to break. You're going to need money for emergencies. That middle part of your life is very, very expensive. Very, very expensive. And you have to start managing your finances early in life, but at the same time, understand the things that are coming down the road. And it's one of those things where a lot of us had not been through that portion of life with a lot of money. And so I'm fortunate enough to be able to help my kids try to understand this. But as me and Bob always talk about, we kind of got where we got through trial and error, through learning by learning. Hopefully, my kids are learning by listening. But you really have to put the time in, have a long-term perspective of what's going to happen with your money over your lifetime and manage it accordingly. And this insurance policy program that we're talking about is just another option. It's not the only option. Neither Bob or I have used it. I told you I was never an insurance person, but it's another one of those things that may fit your own particular situation, because everybody's situation is different. But you have to figure out what you need to get where you want to get. And the only way you can do that is by creating a plan, understand what's coming in, what needs to go out, and what you expect to have at the end when you retire. And that takes a lot of work, takes a lot of studying, takes a lot of understanding. And it's something that everybody needs to do who wants to build wealth and either pass it on, retire comfortably, and all those other good things. It's a lot of work. A lot of variables have to be managed.
And I really believe people miss the middle part though, because we're so busy trying to get started. We're so busy looking at the end, but we end up, anything to come up and we end up spending, and it can totally deplete your retirement fund that you're saving for, or deplete the money that you have in the bank. That's why we always talk about maximizing your return, because the time value of money, $1 today is not worth $1 tomorrow. And fair, you can't anticipate, or you can't determine all these things will come up. But there are some big ticket items that you're going to have. If your car is right now is 10 years old, guess what? You're going to be needing a car in another few years, maybe. I don't know, because the cars don't last for you. I think that's a true statement. And you need to start looking at ways, because I'm telling you all, these expenses, and you know what I'm talking about, can drain your savings so fast. And like a stock market turn can take your retirement fund down to so little. So what we're trying to do is provide just another financial planning strategy to think about. Now, in short,
Hey Bob, but one more thing I wanted to say. But if you look back to what our parents knew, okay, my parents weren't thinking about paying for college, but that was something I at least had the foresight to think about once I started having kids, is that, yeah, I got to figure out a way to pay for college. Now, there's so many other things I wish I had known, like the Medicare and the Social Security, how it's taxed, how your Medicare premium is based on your income, and if you got money sitting in an IRA, you got your RMDs, how that's going to affect your income. But I had never gone through that, so I wasn't as prepared as I should have been. Now, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, I can't complain about anything because I've done okay. But we always talk about maximizing, and I could have done better. So that's what we're trying to put out there so people can do better, because there's no reason to be surprised. There's so many tools out there, and the best thing you can do is ask somebody who's 10 years older than you, 20 years older than you, 30 years older than you, and ask them some of the challenges that they have and what they had wished they had known when they were your age. And then you can prepare. And you take all that, and then things change. I mean, tax laws change, our A rules change, so security laws change. I mean, who knows if that's going to be here in 20 years? So, yeah, you have all those other variables, but you still have that big hunk of knowledge that you have to go get yourself. You have to find out about what's coming down the pike. And no one's going to just give that to you. You have to go get it yourself. Yeah, or find somebody who has that information who's going to manage your situation. But even in that case, you need to understand what's going on. One, so you can help make the right decisions as far as what your risk tolerance is, what your goals are. You have to have an understanding to be able to contribute to whatever plan you create. And that plan over your lifetime is huge. And there's so many things involved. You got to spend a lot of time with your financial literacy. It just takes time.
And though a lot of people our age, different than our folks, have done very well in their retirement plans. And so they think that it's a lot of money because that's the most money that they've ever earned or seen. But I'm telling you all, we talk about this all the time, that money can disappear rapidly in this economy, with inflation, with unanticipated consequences. So, in short, people separate their money into two buckets. We get it: savings and spending. But it's entirely possible to carve out a bigger portion of your cash flow for wealth creation if you just are willing to think a little different, have a little different mindset. This is the opportunity in the middle that we're talking about that so many people miss. So in the end, even if you don't change a thing about the way you're saving and spending your money, it's definitely worth a closer look. Even if you don't understand everything that me and Dope talked about, it's worth stopping and thinking about, let me see what they're talking about. Maybe maybe I do need to do this a little bit different, because it's worth a close look, because otherwise you might not even realize what you're doing isn't working as well as it could or should until it's too late. Like Doe said, it's too many tools, too much information out here for you to be caught flat-footed. Now, of course, working with a seasoned financial professional, financial advisor, me and Doe talk about, who understands how to build a custom product that will work for you, is critical. Just because, and remember this, someone offers, it doesn't mean they understand it. Like a concierge, the right financial professionals will listen more than they talk. They will get to know you and familiarize themselves with your goals and desires. Then they will use the information to provide to help to guide you where you want to go and where you want to be. So with that, that was a lot of information. And do y'all have any questions out there? Put them right there in the comment box. But it's so important, you all, to put the work in and the effort, because And it's never too late. We always talk about it. It's never too late, no matter what age you are. And that's why, and then some of my friends ask me, well, Bob, I don't really have that much dough. Surveys show that the average 70% of Americans don't have $400 to put in an emergency fund. But yet, the average American spends $400 a year on lottery tickets. So to think that you don't have the money to be able to put it aside to outside of your retirement plan, it's not a lot. We're talking about $100, $50. If you do automatic payment, you can put as low as $25. But the name of the day, remember, if you're working and have a retirement, the money you're working for is called compensation. That means you are working for that money. But we're talking about having your money work for you. That's how you build wealth. No, let's go to the summary and takeaways for today. Let me see here.
And the first one is kind of a generic, have your emergency fund work for you. What do we mean by that? We mean, if you got money put away for an emergency fund, make sure it's earning as much as you can earn on it. Okay, don't have it sitting in a bank, in a checking account, or in a low interest rate savings account at a bank. Make sure you're optimizing the interest rates you're earning, or it's in a mutual fund. It should be liquid and accessible, but make sure you're earning as much as you can on that money, just as you should with every other thing you deal with financially. Try to maximize your returns.
The next one is, me and Dope say this almost every week, sounding like a parrot, but a lack of a budget is a recipe for disaster. I'm telling you, it's the difference of, you having a cash flow or positive cash flow. It's the difference of you being able to pay your loans on time. It's the difference of you being delinquent. It's the difference of you, paying high interest rates on your credit cards, on your loans. It's so important, you all. The budget will eat through your cash. I know we talk about it, and y'all know who I'm talking to. There's a bunch of you out there who do budget, but you don't put it down on paper. And the thing about putting it on paper, I'm telling you all, it manifests it. It makes it clear. It crystallizes. It takes it out of your head because, we be forgetting things. So I know we ride that horse down the valley and back up the other side because it's so important.
Hey, Bob, to drill that home, sitting down and doing a budget is hard, but not having a budget and dealing with the ramification of that is real hard. Okay. The next one is save to build wealth. You have to find some vehicles to put money away if you want to build wealth. It's not going to happen on its own. You have to put money away. You have to save. You have to have a plan to save, and you have to maximize those things you're saving in. Everything, you could do all that and still not be able to build wealth. Bob mentioned a few minutes ago about the economy could go under. A whole lot of bad things can happen. So it's not a guarantee. But if you aren't saving to build wealth, you have no chance of building wealth. You got to put money away.
And the last one, but not least, be frugal, not cheap. There is a difference. Dope is not cheap. He is frugal. I know a lot of times it may seem he's a cheapo. Now, my wife might call me cheap, but there's a difference being frugal. Frugal is being smart with your money, not just being overspending and creating a bunch of debt. There's a difference.
And it's I kind of wear that proudly of being frugal, but there's a whole lot of little things I do, and it's like if you go up to my closet upstairs, I got probably more toilet paper and paper towels than anybody could ever use. But when they're on sale, I buy them. Those are things that I buy when they're on sale. And I buy certain things in certain seasons because that's when the prices are lowest. I mean, it's just little things you do that add to your wealth as far as when you buy, when you spend. And to me, the most important thing, the most important thing is, especially for young folks, is to value wealth as opposed to things. And that's something that I didn't understand growing up. And it was only recently in the last probably 10 years that I really, really understood what that meant and stop worrying about being such a consumer and worry about having money that's making money. I mean, there's no better feeling than going to bed and waking up and having more money than you had when you went to bed because whatever you invested in went up in value. I mean, that's and if you look at everything that you have, none of it increases in value. You know, things don't increase in value unless they're an investment. You know, so I enjoy being called cheap. It doesn't bother me at all. But that's I guess people would probably say I'm cheap. Mm-hmm.
You know what's so interesting about your cheap behind? You cheap, but you have nice things. That's an oxymoron.
Well, no, but and that's intentional too. I spend money on what I really enjoy. I think I've figured out in my life what's important, what I like, what I really enjoy, what I want to spend money on, and everything else I try to minimize. You know.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Please share this on Facebook, you all, and go out there on YouTube and subscribe. Share this information, y'all, with your loved ones, your friends, your associates, your church. I mean, this information is so valuable, you all. So we hope you liked the show this week and hope you appreciate it. And I just want to give a shout out to Carl Chapman, my man who's always on. And hey, now, what's up? Thank you for the comment now. As always, thank you for being there for us. Rodney Madison Sr., thenotexperience.com. We're going to be getting into some other retirement tips in the future, Rodney. I know I told you we might be doing it today, but stick with us. My sister Linda Garnett, always good to see you there. And the wonderful queen of all Toastmasters, Kitty Cheney. How you doing, Kitty? Thank you for tuning in, everybody. And though I like to share my quote of the week. Sometimes the bad things that happen to us in our lives put us directly on the path to the most wonderful things that will ever happen to us. So remember, it's never a rejection, just a redirection toward what's truly meant for us. Bam! Big Bob dropped some knowledge. That's what that sound was, dope. Look, y'all have a good week, and we'll see you next week. Don't wait to push it. Dope was waiting.
I'm always nervous.
Man. Have a good one, you all. Great show, dope. Talk to y'all later.